Okay. Well, hey everyone, it's me again. Sorry, I was just looking at the track that we're going to do today, and it is a really powerful one and a good one. And of course, uh, the tracks are only as good as we are. In other words, it's a partnership when we meditate with these tools, and we have to bring our heart and our focus and our brains and our karma and our desires and our wounds and our God self and our messed up self and all of that stuff to the meditation. But anyway, so we're doing VisionQuest 2, and it is a half-hour track, and it entrains to mid theta, low delta, high delta simultaneously. So that's probably why it rocks. It's doing these different tracks all together. Big entrainment field. And yeah, Vision Quest. That's an important one because, well, it says in the Old Testament, without a vision, the people perish. I think it's in the book of Proverbs, and it is so true. In our current postmodern world, or whatever you want to call them, talking primarily to the West, but it's true in the Western democracies too, probably to include Japan. The little I know is that there is, so many of us have so much, live with great wealth. All right, even our poor people are considered, if the other people, poor people, see them and they go, "That's not poor. We're poor." We have a lot of stuff, and we have a lot of entertainment, and we have a lot of distractions, and we have a lot of just incredible technology. We were messing around with AI last night, and it's like, seriously? So I said, this is into my warped brain, but I said Basset Hounds in the Sistine Chapel, and boom, there were a picture of Basset Hounds praying in the Sistine Chapel or something like that. It's a very incredible thing. So, but yeah, right. What happens when you turn a dog upside down? What do you have? God, right? D-O-G, G-O-D. So anyway, I'm sure that's not the big threat at Basset Hounds in the Sistine Chapel. But anyway, we have all this stuff, yet we have more depression, more suicides, especially growing in our young people, and they have these things like constantly attached. And yes, it's pink. Constantly attached, and just doing this. They said the average young Black man, poor at the poverty level in the United States, spends like 11 to 12 hours a day doing this. Like, what? And so how do we do that? Well, how do we deal with that? Because it's not feeding our souls. We wouldn't have so much drug addiction and suicide and just despair if this stuff was really helping, by and large. So it is important to find your path and find what you're here to do. And it is something that our ancestors from all our ethnic and traditions thought was important. You see that, you see that in the early, in the Old Testament, right? Boom, and he got a vision, right? He got the 10 Commandments. And Jesus, before he started his ministry, he goes out and fasts and prays in the desert for 40 days, 40 nights. That number keeps coming up in the Bible. And yeah, he does it. And the Buddha, right? He sits under the tree and is tempted with all, demons of lust and desire and just anything. And he just sat there, touched the earth, and he got it. And we're still benefiting from what he found under the Bodhi tree, whether we're Christians or Buddhist or whatever. We've been all influenced by that breakthrough. So all that to say that the Vision Quest is extremely, extremely important. And it's something that I've done a lot of. And I found a book early on. It was back in the late 80s when I was in the Bay Area, called The Vision Quest. And I read it and I went, yes, that's what I need. So I started going out to the wilderness and fasting and praying and I did this alone. I didn't know you could have people support you till many years later. I figured that out. But and then besides my own path, I helped a lot of people go on VisionQuest, both within the wilderness groups that I worked with, where people were struggling with addiction and depression and alcoholism, etc., and just people who wanted to go out there and confront themselves. So coming up June, and I can't tell you which day, but June, and I'll give you a hint, early June, we will be having, who knows? Okay, maybe mid-June. No. Then all that leaves is late June. So keep wired here. So anyway, this will be the third time we did it. And during the pandemic, I did 2 online VisionQuest 5-day seminars, or whatever you want to call it, things, and they're really amazing. And I didn't know. Will God show up for something like this? Because in the traditional, you go off and you find your place. And I used to tell my students, find a place where it would be okay to die, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're dying to your old self, and you're being reborn with this new initiation into who and what you're supposed to be doing, moving from childhood into manhood or womanhood or whatever that might be, or moving from being single to being an adult, or to being married, or taking on a new role in life. There's a lot of really good reasons to deal with grief, to go out there. There's many reasons for it, but find a place that's a sacred feeling place that has power for you. And so anyway, we did this during the pandemic. Somebody said, well, what are you good at? And I've done a lot of vision questing, and it hadn't occurred to me to do it online, but it suggested that. And so we get together and we use this technology. We come together and work for a couple hours sometime each day, and then you have assignments to go back and use the technology again and journal and work on certain aspects of the vision quest. And then definitely pay attention to your dreams, because one of the things that we have found with this technology, WeAwake stuff, is that it really makes your dreams more powerful. Okay. And if you kind of set your intention before you go to sleep, and and have your journal or have your recorder, your phone there to record whatever comes up from your unconscious in your dreams, the unconscious kind of sees that you're paying attention, and it will show up. And if you're faithful with that, it really starts coming through. So that'll be another important thing. So we're working together on that. All that to say, if you're interested, stay in touch. Sometime in June. So we'll be talking about it more, but it's a very powerful experience. And right now, whatever you're going through, if you're having a good day or a bad day, or what it is, or if you're just kind of sometimes like I'm so overwhelmed by everything going on in the world. And sometimes I have to realize that God has an agenda, and I just need to, relax in that and find out what my little part is. And as long as I'm doing my little part, I'm okay, because that's all I can really be accountable for. And God can use it to change everything, or change nothing, or help a dog cross the street, or whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be have integrity and honesty, and the desire to service and serve something beyond yourself, bigger than yourself, more noble than just your own stuff, which we are bombarded with all the time. Like, get this thing, do this thing. So maybe we can just do a little Vision Quest experience here. And many of you will probably know what your life task is, but you still need to stay hooked up to the source, or just lose it, and you'll lose your way. You'll lose the path. You'll lose the, like I watch my dogs. He's a great sniffer, and she follows the trail. Well, you'll lose the scent. You'll go, oh God, no telling what you'll do. So you keep sniffing God out and finding a way, and meditation is one way for us to do that, to stay on the track. And okay, so also you might, if any of the thing about the Vision Quest that that I said, like, sparks interest in you, and just check in with yourself and your higher power, however that is arranged in your own interior world, and see maybe this is something you want to do. And the feedback that we've gotten from the experience has been really phenomenal, and it works on Zoom. People in different continents, different parts of the world, and there's a feel created, and there's that community aspect that is extremely powerful. And we're doing all this meditation, and it's a trip. I had no idea it would be like that, but we start coming together for something greater. It's greater than the sum of all our parts. So without further ado, this is VisionQuest. You can see it in the WeAwake app, and it's the second one. There's 2 tracks, and this is VisionQuest 2. It's just about a half hour long. So we'll see you on the other side. Go deep, find God. Okay. welcome back. And Sabi is the producer today doing this thing and the co-pilot, as you were. Anyway, I think you're doing a terrific job, and I feel really supported and comfortable when you're in charge of this, Sabi. So thank you. Yeah. Well, getting back, that was really, really good for me. It was something happened there, and something beautiful, and meditation or prayer meditation, the way I think about it now, it's an act of faith. It's an act of, if I keep showing up doing this thing, you know, because of this presence I found, this mystery. It's like, I guess any practice is kind of an act of faith. I mean, my playing tennis is really, playing tennis is a really active faith, because I've never seemed to make much progress. But anyway, I keep going back. And yeah, I was the second VisionQuest, the online one that we did. I had a powerful vision, and I wasn't looking for it. I was there to hold the space, and so you never know. And it was really beautiful, and it was really affirming. And I often have self-doubt, if anybody else experiences that, but I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough, and if you guys have seen the podcast we've been doing for about a year, Deep Transformation, it's like with Dr. Roger Walsh as my co-host, and Heidi's the producer of that, by the way, executive producer, call it. And we are definitely hanging out with some of the brightest lights on the planet. And well, it's this little boy from Texas who dropped out of high school when he was 14 doing there. I was like, I don't know, but I'm really grateful. And I just kind of have to get out of the way and put my self-doubt and all that stuff on the on the shelf, and just say, God, use me, make me a tool, make me an instrument of your wisdom, your peace, and remarkable. If you haven't seen it, you should really watch it. And most of our guests, almost, I don't know how many, maybe all of them, but close to all of them, have said it was a really special experience. And these are very worldly people. I mean, they write books and they speak, and they've probably been on dozens of podcasts, some of them, and they say it's special. Something happens. There's a field that's created, an openness. So you're just not doing the bullet points that you want to, get out for your new book or whatever. It's just it's a very powerful experience. So I feel extremely blessed, and working with Roger is it's more than I could ever ask. I had read his books and known of him since, I guess, in the late 80s, when I went to the San Francisco Bay Area to go to grad school, and discovered his work. And he'd always kind of been a presence. And now, yeah, it's interesting. We went to Integral conference, Integral European Conference, which is coming up really soon. You guys have never been there. It can be life-changing. It's absolutely beautiful. And my friend Benze Gante, who was also a guest on the podcast, is the one who, with his team, puts it together and make just a tremendous job. And there's energy created. So anyway, that's where Roger and I connected. I mean, I remember one time seeing him, and I just said, I want to thank you so much for what you've done. He kind of sponsored Ken Wilber when Ken was moving from being a dishwasher to a recognized, we call him the Einstein of consciousness. That's one of the descriptions of him from that period. So he invited him to stay with them in their home, his wife, and so anyway, I thanked him for that. I don't know if he remembered me, but anyway, I just sometimes just have to say thank you, right? Like these cats behind me, so thank you, Martin. Thank you, Beatles. It's been blessed me so much. And yeah, he just lost his wife, and I just lost my parents. So and then had a massive heart attack like 3 or 4 months before. So I was pretty, broken place, and we just connected as human beings, and then we continued the connection. Roger and I do the old 20th century thing of talking on the phone. We don't do this, and at one point he said, "You want to do a podcast?" Mhm. Oh, and he still has an Australian accent, and I can't do it, so I'm not going to try. But he said, "Yeah." I think he said, "Yeah," and then we started it, and right when we got rolling, the pandemic hit. Boom, and we were actually doing in-person uh, conversations and interviews, and so everything fell apart. And I don't know, 2 or 3 years later, he said, "Do you still want to do this thing?" I said, "Yeah, I still want to do this thing. I think I think that's what my higher power is indicating that we need to do." And part of my hidden agenda was to get Roger in front of the camera talking, because he's just such a brilliant guy, and he's done so much. And he's just um, a receptacle and channel of great knowledge, scholarly knowledge, and great humility, and wisdom that comes from being a very devout practitioner. And he's like one of the few people I've known outside of kind of the WeAwake thing who practices, it's just so dedicated, and that all comes through. And so when he said yes, I was like, "Oh yeah." So even though nobody shows up, I just get Roger talking. It'll be good. And he's a real humble guy. And he doesn't like, anyway, if he heard this stuff, he would be, "John," he wouldn't do that. But yeah, that was a fulfillment part of the vision. And the vision, the visual vision that I had during the second VisionQuest online thing that we did, that's coming up in June. And the thing about when you get a vision or a powerful dream, which I've had a number of when I was a child that repeated and things like that, is that they seem to function as archetypes. And as far as I can understand what an archetype is, it's kind of fuzzy, when you talk about it, but they are symbols that are embedded in the collective unconscious of humanity, and they have great power and energy, like kings and queens and knights and warriors and old wise women and Merlins and all of these things, and they can show up, but they're not just like watching a TV show. Oh, there's an angel. They have a power that unlocks stuff, and they can keep nourishing you over a lifetime. And as you live and change and your perspective changes, the meaning keeps growing of what these visions meant. And so yeah, the real powerful ones are sustaining. And maybe we'll be seeing that again when we're laying our bodies down, when we're getting ready to die to our physical forms. These will come back. And so yeah, so it is very powerful. And finding your vision is an antidote to despair, hopelessness, meaninglessness, cynicism, because you find that there is a divine source in you. Wow, really changes everything. So I have a faith built on years of this prayer and experience that I can find out the answers to what I'm struggling with, if I'm supposed to know. You know, if the Great Spirit doesn't want to tell me, well, that's fine too. You know, that's okay. But if I'm supposed to know it, it will emerge. It will be there. I'll meet up the right person, or just have a knowing, or the right book. I mean, or the right squirrel in the tree. I mean, God can speak in so many ways. It's infinite. So, yeah. So these moments of clarity, these moments of higher power transmission can be you know, changing, you know, can change everything forever in our journeys. And sometimes when we're going through really dark places, there's an old, I think it's a Christian prayer, but it said, God help me to remember in the dark valley what I learned on the mountaintop. You know, so when these visions that we get of breakthrough and clarity and light, okay, then we're supposed to, I think the challenge is to take that wisdom back and start walking the walk, and walking the talk, if you're supposed to be a teacher, and bringing it back into the world in service. And that's when the circuit of the vision quest and our lives are completed, when we find out what we're supposed to be doing, and then we do it with gratitude for being shown a path and be given a path, and then with faithfulness, going through and trying to do it as best we can with the people that we need to work with. And it's just very empowering. And there's just so much stuff going on in the world. I don't have to tell anybody. They call the meta crisis, and people keep talking about on Deep Transformation podcast, you know, all this stuff, you know, brought together as just one big, extremely complex thing, and without divine help and meaning and purpose, we ain't gonna make it. All right. And I think Andrew Harvey, I did a workshop with him one time, and he is I think he went to Oxford in England. He's very educated guy in literature and poetry, and he's also a deep mystic. And and then you see these direct experiences of the divine. And of course, he went down the wrong path, like all of us. You know, came back, and he has a story, but he was talking about the reasons we should really be concerned, and about what's going on. And that was maybe 20 years ago, but it still is true today. And then the last point was, God has an agenda, you know. So that gives me comfort. And, you know, in science, which I love and I listen to a lot, especially physics, I'm very interested in. Even mathematics, I'm interested in, which I'm not very good at. That's an understatement. But anyway, yeah, they're looking for the one formula, right, that will explain why there is something. And you know, they have the four basic forces. It's the weak nuclear force, the strong nuclear force, electromagnetism, and gravity. And that's what makes everything go round. And they can't make it fit together. It's just, it doesn't work. You know, then they come up with things like string theory, which is completely theoretical. You know, I mean, God is much less theoretical than string theory. They just kind of, you know, put it all together because it sounded cool and maybe it could work. There's no evidence of it at all. Plenty of evidence for higher power, thousands and thousands of years of experience, individual and collective. And now it's gone out of vogue. It's like, yeah, but nah, that ain't it. But the problem, I think, with this theory is that the essential realization that we get from our spiritual work, our interior work, or just the just the grace of the universe or God. Maybe it doesn't do anything. You're sitting on a park bench and boom, something happens. It's not that way for most of us. Is that the universe is conscious and the universe is consciousness. Go figure. And you look at what we know about the birth of the universe, and as close as we can come, it's called the Big Bang. It was like zilch and then hydrogen. 13 billion years, 0.8, I think, 7. And there's no way in heaven this could be random, because any little dinky thing would be different. There'd be no carbon, there'd be no life, there'd be no nothing. And there's a mathematical coherence that goes to all this stuff. So it's really amazing. So I think that in figuring out the deep meanings, even in physics, you have to come to the point where the universe is consciousness itself, and everything manifests. And the other day I was reading they try to create the most perfect vacuum, the most nothing thing that can be done, and there's no nothing. They call it quantum foam, I think. The stuff just bubbles into existence and out like the foam on a beer. So they just can't find nothing. It's always something, which is really interesting too. So anyway, I am going on way too long, but it is among other things, the universe is beautiful, and as my dear friend Jeff Salzman says, evolution is beautiful, but it's not pretty. Okay. So we're living in a time of cutting edge, and it's inherent as individuals to find our place, find what it's about. And it's an incredible grace to be able to even ask these questions and struggle with these questions. Really? Yes. That's just a great gift. So let's stick together and do it and become whatever that is, whatever small part of the everything that we're given to play with this life, and perhaps other lives too. So enough of that stuff, but thank you. It was a very powerful meditation for me, and I appreciate you all very much. And thank you, Sabi. God bless you guys.